Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Lieutenant Rebecca Pentreath. We welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Our Lady Help of Christians Catholic Primary School from Epping, New South Wales. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the roll of honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Frederick Newman Brown. Frederick Newman Brown was born to John and Elizabeth Brown in 1893 in Canberra on the New South Wales south coast. The Brown family moved to Bondi in Sydney when Frederick was young, and he attended school there. After leaving school, he worked as an amateur winder, helping to build electrical components in a Randwick factory. In January 1915, Brown volunteered for service in the Australian Imperial Force. He joined the 4th Reinforcements to the 1st Australian Infantry Battalion and undertook initial training in Australia. He sailed from Sydney on the transport ship Argyllshire in April of 1915. Brown volunteered with his brother-in-law, Albert Nelson, and the two men sailed to war together on the same ship. The 1st Battalion had landed on Gallipoli in the 2nd and 3rd waves on the 25th of April. In late May, Brown and the men of the 4th Reinforcements landed on the peninsula and joined their unit. When Brown arrived in the trenches, the fighting was characterised by sapping, the process of digging mines under enemy positions and filling them with explosives. Sniper fire, trench mortar, and bomb attacks were also common, and as a result, life in the trenches was a nerve-wracking and dangerous experience. British commanders were planning a major offensive for early August. Australian and New Zealand forces, including the 1st Battalion, were to capture a large plateau to draw Turkish troops away from the main attack. The plateau was dominated by a single large pine tree, and the battle that followed became known as the Battle of Lone Pine. As the sun set on the 6th of August, Brown and the men of the 1st Battalion attacked the plateau and found the Turkish trenches covered with logs. As a result, the men pushed over these frontline trenches and into the communication trenches behind, turning around and fighting at close quarters with the defenders. At some point during this fighting, between the 6th and 11th of August 1915, Brown was killed in action. He was 22 years old. Brown was initially buried near where he fell. After the war, many of the graves on Gallipoli were consolidated. His remains now lie in Lone Pine Cemetery alongside 1,100 Commonwealth soldiers who took part in the Dardanelles campaign. Brown's brother-in-law, Private Albert Nelson, was also killed during the attack and was buried in Lone Pine Cemetery. In Australia, Brown was survived by his parents and two sisters. However, the war was to bring more sadness to the Brown household. Frederick's older brother, Private John William Brown of the 2nd Battalion, was killed in France in August 1918. John had also been on Gallipoli in 1915. Private Frederick Newman Brown is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, alongside more than 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photo is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Frederick Newman Brown, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.